Report from Santa Fe is made possible in part by grants from the National Educational Association of New Mexico, an organization of professionals who believe that investing in public education is an investment in our state's economic future. From the New Mexico Municipal League, a better New Mexico through better cities. And from the Healy Foundation, Taos, New Mexico.
Hello, I'm Lorraine Mills, and welcome to Report from Santa Fe. We have a very special guest today, DeJean Jawrunner. Thank you for joining us, and with your friends.
Thank you.
Tell us a little about yourself. I know you're Professor Emeritus at the Fine Art Department at Mesalands Community College in Tucumcari.
Yes.
And who do we have here?
These are two of my rabbits from the High Plains Drifter series. These were cast in Tucumcari. What makes Tucumcari School, Mesalands Community College, so special is that we have the largest teaching foundry in New Mexico. And so we can cast bronze, aluminum, and iron. It's a very special place.
Oh, my goodness. How long did you establish so the event is called the Iron Pour?
Yes, we have an annual iron pour that has just completed its 21st year. We started sort of as by accident. We were trying to get people to recognize our existence and do it on a national level. And we had a truck driving school. So our truck drivers went to Birmingham, Alabama, picked up Coke, took it to the first international iron pour in Trenton, New Jersey, and our truck driver then brought me back a double belly dump full of Coke and said, I want to keep you. Here's your present.
You were talking about a certain mineral mix.
Yes.
Explain what you mean.
Coke is to, let me see, wood is to charcoal as Coke is to charcoal. Coke is refined charcoal. It burns at a higher temperature. And we have to melt iron at about 3,000 degrees. So almost 3,000.
Oh, my goodness. I just want to talk a little about Mesalands because they really do some really extraordinary things. I noticed that they have an animal science program, a wind technology, high-tech program, farrier science, horseshoeing, which again is manipulating metal, paleontology because the Clovis points, they're just a hotbed of archaeological and anthropological sites there.
Yes.
And then you come in with this international event. And by the way, when we say iron pour, it's P-O-U-R.
Yes.
Because you liquefy hard, heavy metal and then pour it. But we'll talk about the whole process. Who are you and how did you get there?
I had an MFA in fine art, and I was looking for a job, and someone said, you would do very well in New Mexico, and there is a job advertised. So I applied for it, and I didn't know they had a foundry. So I came, and when I walked into the studio, they used the same materials I used, they had the same kind of furnace I was used to. It felt like I was coming home. So I came in 1997, and I've been here ever since. There's no reason this is my home. I will stay here.
There is something so appealing to me. I'm kind of fascinated by what you do. And if you wouldn't mind, let's take a minute and go through the process. We have some pictures of an iron pour taken by our very photographer, Sandy Seahaver. And so if you could just walk us through, take your time and tell us, who are these people and what are they doing?
This year, we had 40 artists from all over the country come in, and what they are doing in that shot is pouring metal. The metal is coming from the furnace. We have a low-tech, it's called a cupola, a low-tech furnace. They are tapping it, and everyone stands around collecting it in a ladle. They're going to then pick up the ladle and pour it into molds.
So how big is the ladle, and how heavy is this full of molten
We
iron
pour
or
about
bronze?
85 pounds at a time. If we need more than that, we do 2 ladles at a time. Probably by the time we add on the weight of the carrying system, the metal support, and the crucible, it will weigh probably 120.
Are these one ladle or 2 ladle pairs?
These are 1 ladle.
Yeah, but they're very heavy.
Yeah, they are.
Very heavy. So, and what are these, let's go on to this one. Now, what are they doing here? And talk about what they're wearing, because they are definitely
That's right.
OSHA approved safe.
They are. Off the silver ones we like to think of as baked potatoes, those fire gear. And we have to be wearing cotton clothing. This is molten metal. Iron melts almost 3,000 degrees. So you don't get blisters, you lose meat. So you have to have leather shoes, cotton clothing,
Because
heavy
polyester
jackets.
would melt.
Yes, that's true.
Ugh.
And the other things may burn, but they won't stick to the skin. And having said all this, we have been very blessed. We have not had any accidents, but we are very safety conscious as a result.
So now, tell us what's going on here.
They are working on the ladle. They feed the ladle, they're feeding the furnace. We alternate loads between coke and iron. We make our loads so that any size person can do these things. A small weight means repetitive effort, but anyone can do it. And at our pours, everyone takes part. Women, men. The tall men are grateful because it's not so heavy and they don't wear out. The heat also makes people tired, so keeping it light makes it possible for people to keep working for longer periods of time.
And how long does the pour, what time of year do you do it? And then is it an all-day event? Is it
That
overnight?
depends on many things. We pour iron until we run out of iron, coke, people, or cupola. And when you go to an iron pour, you're never guaranteed of a piece because one of those things can happen. Something can go awry, and that would shut us down. And depending on how much iron we pour is how long it takes. This year we poured over 6,000 pounds, and it took us, 4 or 6 hours? Once we get going, it's kind of hard to tell. We just keep moving.
And so people come from all over the world.
They do. They do.
How do you determine who can be a part of it?
It's open to who signs up first. We open registration usually in December, and then people sign up for a class. They're actually getting college credit when they take this class. And they have to sign up. The people who come for a long time, they know to sign up early, but we always have newcomers. We have a great deal of people who return year after year, which makes it possible for us to have such a big pour so safely, because everyone is looking, everyone is teaching and sharing what they know. So it's a very inclusive family.
So this is the mystery for me. This is molten what?
This is iron being poured.
There is something, an atavistic draw that molten metal has to people. Were we all alchemists in another life? I mean, people are intrigued with this. They watch lava, they
Yes.
watch molten metal, and they're just transfigured. What is a fascination we have? Clearly, you have it too.
I've always had it.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm not sure. What's funny is I don't care for heat, but around the furnace, it doesn't bother me at all. There's something wonderful about the way it glows, watching it move, watching it pour. And when we use iron, we're able to do things with the high temperature, which we can't do with lower temperatures. Bronze only goes to about 2,000 degrees. So it affects the pieces that we put into them. It's kind of magic.
It is magic, and
It
that's one of the reasons I wanted to do this show with you, because I've always felt that pull, just like, how do they do that, and how does it go from, what is the raw state of iron that you use? Just iron ingots?
No, actually, we can't use ingots because our furnace is relatively small. What we are always looking for is steam radiators, bathtubs,
Oh, my
sinks,
goodness.
and then we have sledgehammers, and we take those and we break those pieces into 50-cent size pieces. So it takes a while to do that, and all week long, while they're making pieces, they have to stop and break iron. And then we weigh charges of iron and we weigh charges of coke, and we alternate. If they're too big, they could cause a skull and choke off the furnace, which would mean we couldn't pour anymore. And if they're too small, they could do the same sort of thing. So we have to get them just right.
How did you learn how to do this?
Well, I love fire, and I love casting, and I love welding and fireworks. And so I went to school, and they started having regular pours, traditional pours with a furnace. Doing aluminum and bronze, we use just a small furnace, and we can use ingots. But the iron, there was a resurgence for this. This started kind of, iron is the oldest metal, and it's the one that people respond to. And so this started years ago, and they had only big people. You had to be like 6 foot because the furnaces and the ladles would be 450 pounds. And so women were really pretty well
Yeah.
cut out of it,
Yeah.
and short men. And so now we have changed this so that everyone can take part. And it's a much more wonderful experience.
Well, iron, it's in our red blood cells.
Yes.
It's the element that carries the oxygen to our body. It's the element that rusts things, they oxidize out in the air. And so, I mean, I can see why even getting rust on your hands, the smell of the iron is just really attractive to me, too.
It's a totally different experience than pouring bronze or aluminum. And it glows and it holds the heat. And it's just incredibly beautiful. We start in the afternoon, but we always end up pouring till after dark.
Of course.
So it glows and shimmers, and it's a wonderful experience. And people come watch. We have lots of people who come just for the day to watch insane people working.
I have to reveal my ignorance. Would you tell me what's in bronze? What are the metals that make up bronze?
Copper. Copper is the main ingredient in bronze, and it depends on the kind of bronze. Bronze is kind of a term like human. There's lots of varieties, but it's all the same metal. We use in iron is straight.
Yeah.
Yes, iron is pure. And it depends on the bronze what alloys you use. We can use zinc. There's lots of different things.
Hence the Bronze Age. I'm
Yes.
sure there were a lot of isolated experimentation with. I mean,
Right.
how did they first figure out how to melt minerals and craft the tools and the farming implements and the weapons of Iron Age and then Bronze Age?
Actually, by burning fires, they collect the raw material. I'm sure it was probably an accident. And if you have a fire long enough, they still do this in Africa. They collect it, and then with the heat, they refine it. And once they get it separate, then they can heat it again and begin forging it back and forth. So I'm sure it's practical. I'm not quite as old as that. So
No, I know.
I'm a
I
little
didn't expect
sketchy on
you-
some of those
yeah,
rules.
But to me, it's an intriguing process.
Yes,
And-
it is.
And the aluminum, so in Santa Fe, we have the Nambe foundries, and that is largely aluminum, but several other metals too, right?
I don't know what they use.
I don't know.
I know they do aluminum.
It's
They do-
proprietary.
Yes, they use beautiful aluminum.
And tell me aluminum is a lot lighter.
It is. It's about 1/3 the weight of bronze or iron. And bronze and iron weigh about the same.
Well, we're speaking today with the Jean Jawrunner, and I'm just fascinated by this. I have not been to a pour. I would certainly like to go.
We hope so.
But from the pictures that I've seen and how it makes me feel, I'm just wondering how that happens. Let's talk about these hares here, part of your desert
High plains.
high plains drifters.
Ser-
But not that they exactly drift, they speed by. But so then how do you cast these? How to get intricate shapes like this and expressions like this?
First, I sculpted them in wax. Then
Lost,
I made
lost wax
well,
process.
first
no?
you make, yes, I'm using
Okay.
the lost wax on these. First I sculpted these in wax, then I made molds of them, a repetitive mold, a reproduction mold that I can make other copies from. Then once I had them in a thin shell of wax, I put them into another kind of mold. It's the mold we fire in, and that's only one use only. And then we melt the wax out of those in our flash burnout kiln, which reach 1800 degrees in 7 minutes. And then we pour molten metal into them. And that mold I can break. that's a one-time use only, so I can assemble them as much as possible, and then they come out as they are.
And when you say assemble, ears
Yes,
seem to me a very vulnerable
yes.
part of the sculpture.
Some things have to be welded afterwards, and some things can come out as one piece. Casting is really kind of like ugly ducklings. You just have to wait a bit till it turns into something beautiful. And they do.
Oh, clearly, clearly. I was looking at your website, which is
D-Gene Jawrunner. I think, wait a minute. it's
D
dash-
underscore, I
Yes.
think it is.
No, it's D
No,
dash.
D-dash.
Jawrunner.com.
Yes, because you have some other wonderful things. You have very intricate towers with small objects in the windows. Just intriguing looking. But one thing that you have that was so beautiful to me, you have memorial urns for ashes of our beloveds. And you have created something of many hands all
Yes.
together holding. And tears came to my eyes. It's just the most beautiful representation of how we hold our loved ones in our hearts and in our hands.
Thank you.
And so I just recommend that people go and look at some of your other things that you've done. So what time of year do you do this pour?
We do the pour in March, usually around the middle. It runs from Sunday through Saturday, so that people have a chance to travel on both ends in case. We have people who come take their yearly vacations and join us. We have professors, we have professional artists, museum curators, doctors. We have had about every profession imaginable show up, people who have no experience and people who do this for a living. And so it's a wonderful mix. It's great fun.
I know we had a famous foundry here in Santa Fe, Shadone Foundry, that did a lot of Glenna Goodacre's pieces.
Yes.
But are there many foundries left nationally?
They actually have been sort of on the decline lately. It's been kind of hard. There are some. There are quite a few, but not as many as there used to. It's getting to be more a trend. It's harder for people to find places to cast work. Mesa Lands, you learn how to do that. So you do your own work. We don't cast for the public, but people come in and they learn the process and do their own work.
And so if they want to find out more about the iron pour, they should go to your website, or does the pour have its own website?
Yes, if they'll go to mesalands.edu, they'll be able to find information about it. There is always all kinds of things. They can contact the school and they will hook them up with me or Joel Kaiser or Yusuf Devalle, who are also part of our team. They're now helping run the pour. So it's become a 3-person organization.
Yes.
Woo!
So I did that. I went to mesalands.edu,
Yes.
and they listed all their other programs, but they had wonderful pictures and wonderful description of the iron pour. So I recommend people do that. So you've been doing this for how many years? 21, is it?
We've been having pours for 21 years,
Yeah.
yes.
And you are now Professor Emeritus. You used to chair the Fine Arts Department, right?
Yes.
But now you've maybe backed off from some of the administrative
Yes.
tasks, and you have more time to do your own creations.
Yes, that's my responsibility as Professor Emeritus, is to create work and to stay active in the foundry and to be part of the school. I can now contribute in another way.
Oh, good. What are you working on? Because I've seen, you had also on your website, giant 3-foot lizard.
Yes.
With just wonderful movement. I mean, just the way his legs move. And now you're working on a gigantic horny toad?
Yes, it's 5 feet long. It's actually it's back in the state. It's the first time I've ever had anybody else cast my work. I cast large pieces, even for myself, but this time I decided to give myself a present, and Rusty Maestra's Foundry is doing the work for me. So I am going tomorrow to see how it cast and look at the technical side of it, and I'm kind of excited. I think it's going to be an exciting piece.
So if it's 5 feet, how many pieces of that, I would imagine that the back and the head have to be separate.
Yes.
And
I think it was cast for reproduction in 11 pieces. But I'm sure it'll be much smaller than that. We'll put many of the pieces together to cast in metal so we don't have as much welding because it's very highly textured. It's a bit stylized.
The texture, I mean, that's we love that. Though
Me too.
I'm eager to see it, and maybe you can let me have a picture of it when you're done.
I will.
But there are people that are responding to what we're talking about and the fascination that we have. So what if there's just an ordinary person who never ever thought they could ever do anything like this? How would they start? They're saying, well, that's pretty interesting, that's cool, I'd love to see that. Then where do they go from, we've piqued their interest.
Well, I'd suggest they come out to Mesalands. Call us, let us know. We'll try and make an appointment so they can come and see the foundry. We have lots of people who do not live in Tucumcari who commute. They will come from Santa Fe. I've had them from Clayton, Ruidoso, Carlsbad, all over the state. Santa Fe, Taos would come in 1 day a week and they work. They take the same amount of hours that they would, but they don't have to come back twice a week. Normally our classes are twice a week. So, and it depends on what day, but we set them up so that they come and they learn the process. First they have to learn how to do it, and then once they get those skills, then we let them go and we just help them succeed.
And have you ever had people come who aren't sculptors yet?
Yes. Oh,
Really?
yes.
Are you kidding? You can take
Yes.
them from 0 to 60?
Oh, my goodness. All it is practice. Why is it we expect musicians to practice every single day, but artists, we think, just hatch that way? Yes, all you need is to come and watch. It's like learning tricks. Once you learn the secrets of how we do it, it's not so amazing. Well,
But-
it is a bit, but it's
Well,
still
I mean,
fun.
still, the
It's
moment
doable.
of the molten metal,
It's-
that's pure magic.
Yes.
Just pure magic. So how could the primitive people have done this if it's so hot, 3,000 degrees, 1,800 degrees? They didn't have asbestos. They didn't have protective
No.
gear.
But you can use wood. They also would make molds out of mud and clay, shape things, pour them that way, and then forge. You can continuously hammer with rocks. You work and you pour a piece in a chunk, and then you use that to mold and to beat it into shape. So, and you forge and shape when it's hot. So it's not like pounding on cold metal, which is very hard to move.
Yeah.
But if you get it hot enough, it's much more approachable.
That's why I was so interested that you have a blacksmithing
Yes.
school at Mesa Lands too, because you're working with the same
We are.
thing when you're making the horseshoes. Are horseshoes iron? I don't even know what they make
No,
horseshoes.
steel.
Steel? Oh, they're steel. Sounds. But you have to heat it up and
Yes,
then shape it
and shape them.
and do all that.
And they learn how to shape steel into horseshoe shapes for specialty hooves.
or little.
Turns out the
pony-
horses' hooves are not all the same, so sometimes they have to do corrective work. So yes,
Well, I think you've opened some doors for some people.
I hope so.
What is your average age of your people who participate in this?
Oh,
Not
goodness.
average. What is the range?
We've had an 80-year-old,
Uh-huh.
an 80-year-old stone carver who came and made huge, heavy work. We have well, not so much high school, but college age, appropriate age. We have it across the board. There is no one thing. We have men, we have women. We have a lot of women who come and pour with us. It's a very welcoming situation.
Well, it's nice to get a more egalitarian
Yes.
venue than in the. I think of the blacksmith, we're all male, and the men who forge Valerian steel swords were men. It's really nice to see. And is there we're talking about large pieces, heavy pieces, but what about delicate, small things? What can be done with the lost wax process or another process?
Oh, lost wax can do anything. We can do anything, and there are all kinds of ways. There's spin casting for really delicate stuff. Iron is brittle, So it tends to be a little heavier. You don't make things super fine out of it usually. Bronze, you can make very fine things out of. It's more malleable. And aluminum, it doesn't have much of a sense of humor, so they tend to be, they're not as thick as iron, but they're not as delicate usually.
What do they make out of aluminum? This a shape,
Oh,
a
sculptures?
sculptures.
We do a lot of sculptures. We occasionally have people who want to cast a part for their car, do something decorative. Oh, we have great fun with
like
it.
a hood ornament.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Kids one year all did hood ornaments. It was quite an adventure. And stick shift knobs and other things, but you can do anything. All these metals can do anything. They just have personalities in things they prefer doing. If you do very delicate things in iron, you have to be very careful breaking it out so that you don't break it.
and
Yes.
liberating it.
Right.
I suppose that these metals have taught you about themselves
Oh,
just from
yes.
working with them.
And they're like people. They all have their personalities, and depending on what alloys we put in, what mixes we get, changes the composition of the metal. So that affects how we go.
Well, I'm afraid we're out of time, but I am so grateful to you for bringing this wonderful world of molten metal and the iron pour to us. I've learned a lot and I've really enjoyed it. So thank you. Our guest today is Jean Jarwenner of the Iron Pour at Mesalands Community College. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for
It's
asking
been
me.
so much fun.
I've enjoyed it.
Yes, and I'm Lorene Mills. I'd like to thank you, our audience, for being with us today on Report from Santa Fe. We'll see you next week.
Past archival programs of Report from Santa Fe are available at the website reportfromsantafe.com. If you have questions or comments, please email info@reportfromsantafe.com. Report from Santa Fe is made possible in part by grants from the National Educational Association of New Mexico, an organization of professionals who believe that investing in public education is an investment in our state's economic future. From the New Mexico Municipal League, a better New Mexico through better cities. And from the Healy Foundation, Taos, New Mexico.